in the heart of the African savanna, nestled between two rivers and guarded by the whispering trees of an ancient forest, sat a small village named Kijiji Moyo, the village of hearts. It was a place of peace, where laughter echoed through. The maize fields and the air smelled of roasted groundnuts and mango blossoms. But even in such a warm and vibrant place, shadows sometimes stretched long, and secrets hid behind even the brightest smiles. This is the story of a girl named Zuri. Every day Zuri walked to school wearing a bright hand-painted mask, never taking it off, not even for a moment. She spoke softly. She kept to herself and her eyes. Her eyes carried the weight of a story that no one knew, and many feared to ask. Some said she wore the mask because she was cursed. Others whispered she was hiding something terrible, or terribly beautiful. But only Zuri knew the truth. And when that truth came to light, when the mask finally came off, nothing in the village was ever the same again. The sun rose gently over Kijiji Moyo, casting golden light across the rooftops of round mud huts and the red clay paths that wound like veins through the village. Children ran barefoot down the trails toward the old schoolhouse at the edge of the river. Their voices floated in the morning air, high and free. But one child did not run. She walked quiet, alone, deliberate. Her name was Zuri. She wore a blue and yellow mask that covered her face entirely. It was beautiful, hand-painted, with swirling patterns, bright feathers along the sides, and two careful holes for her deep brown eyes. The mask never left her face. Not at home, not in the market, not in class. The younger children stared as she passed. The older ones whispered and snickered. "She thinks she's better than us. I heard she has no mouth. No, she's a ghost. My cousin said so." Zuri kept walking. She didn't look at them. Her steps were slow but firm. She knew the way. She had walked this path 100 times. At the school gate, a tall woman stood waiting. Teacher Wema, kind but firm, her arms folded across her chest, a knowing smile on her lips. "Good morning, Zuri teacher," Wema said. Zuri nodded, the feathers of her mask fluttering slightly. Teacher Wema glanced at the other children who were now peeking from behind the trees and walls. "Class is about to start," she said. "You'll sit near the window today." Zuri walked into the classroom. She took her usual seat at the far end, near the back, close enough to hear the lesson, far enough not to be noticed. The other students filed in slowly, still murmuring about her. "Why does she wear that thing? She must be hiding something ugly. She probably has a third eye." They laughed, but not out of cruelty, out of fear. The mask scared them. The silence scared them more. In the weeks since Zuri had joined the village school, no one had seen her eat. No one had seen her smile. No one had seen her face. And what people cannot understand, they often turn into monsters. But to Zuri, the mask was not a monster. It was protection. As the lesson began, she looked outside the window at the swaying trees. Her mind drifted beyond the chalkboard and the teacher's voice. Her fingers traced the carved edges of her mask. She remembered her mother's voice. "Zuri, when the world tries to stare into your pain, you must guard it, until your heart is strong, until your spirit is ready." She had been just 7 years old then. The night her mother gave her the mask was the last night she saw her. She blinked the memory away. A boy sitting nearby kept glancing at her. His name was Jabari. Unlike the others, he didn't seem afraid, only curious. At a recess, Zuri sat under the baobab tree, alone, drawing swirls in the sand with a stick. Jabari walked over, holding 2 roasted maize cobs. "Hey," he said, sitting down without asking. "You hungry, Zuri?" Didn't reply. "You can take it. I won't tell anyone." He smiled awkwardly. Still, she said nothing. He looked at the mask, tilting his head. "Do you sleep in it?" She glanced at him briefly, then away. "Okay, okay." "No more questions," Jabari said, raising his hands. They sat in silence for a moment. Birds chirped in the distance. The wind rustled the tall grass. For the first time, Zuri didn't feel completely alone, but just as the moment began to settle, 3 girls approached. "Ah, look at the lovebirds," one of them teased. Another girl added, "Careful, Jabari. If she takes off that mask, your face will melt." The third one reached out and tugged at one of the feathers on Zuri's mask. Zuri flinched and stood up quickly. "Leave her alone," Jabari said, stepping between them. "Why do you care?" one girl spat. "She's a freak." Zuri turned and walked away, fast. Her heart pounded. But she didn't cry, not in front of them. She walked past the school, past the river, into the woods. She didn't stop until she reached the old termite mound where the grass grew tall enough to hide her. There, sat down. She touched the mask again, softly then. She whispered to herself for the first time that day, "One day, they'll see me and they won't laugh." She closed her eyes. Somewhere in the wind, her mother's voice answered, "Yes, Zuri, one day." The days passed like river water, slow, steady, and sometimes too heavy to hold. Zuri kept wearing her mask. She kept walking the same path to school, sitting in the same spot near the window, and answering questions in soft, thoughtful whispers. The village had grown used to her presence, but not comfortable. Some children still poked fun, others avoided her entirely. Adults greeted her with forced smiles and suspicious glances, but one person refused to ignore her, Jabari. Each day, he sat closer, not too close, but just enough for her to notice. He brought extra fruit. He offered her sharpened pencils. He never asked questions about the mask again. He just stayed. And slowly, something inside Zuri began to shift. She still didn't speak much, but sometimes she would nod when Jabari made a joke. Once, she even let out a quiet, breathy laugh, so faint he almost missed it. But he noticed. He noticed everything. One afternoon, after the final bell rang and the sun cast long shadows over the schoolyard, Jabari followed her, not too closely. He watched as she took her usual path toward the forest, her feet brushing the tall grass, her mask glowing softly in the amber light. She disappeared among the trees. Curious, he waited a moment, then crept forward, quiet as a mouse. And there, hidden behind thick brush and wild hibiscus, he saw something he would never forget. Zuri was standing before a small, broken mirror, nailed to an old baobab tree. It was cracked, fogged, and faded, but still reflected enough to show her image. She stared into it, not saying a word. Then, slowly, with trembling fingers, she reached up and untied the mask. Jabari's heart caught in his chest. He almost called out, but stopped himself. He knew this was a sacred moment. The mask came off, and for the first time, Jabari saw Zuri's face. It was breathtaking, but not in the way most would expect. Her left cheek bore deep. Old scars, jagged and discolored, running from her temple to her jaw. Her right eye was slightly clouded, though still sharp with emotion. Her lips, full and soft, trembled. As she stared at herself, Jabari didn't move. He didn't breathe. Zuri stared at her reflection, eyes glistening. "Monster," she whispered to the mirror. Then she slid the mask back on quickly and turned to leave. But she froze. Jabari had stepped on a twig. She saw him for a moment. Neither spoke. He looked into her eyes. Those deep, haunted eyes said the only words that came to him. "You're not a monster." Zuri froze. "You're you," he continued softly. "And that's not something to hide." Tears welled in her eyes behind the mask. "Why are you following me?" she asked, voice hoarse. Jabari stepped forward. Slowly, because I want to know the real you, not the one everyone whispers about. She turned away. You saw my face, she said. Now you'll leave too, just like the others did. I'm still here, he replied. Ate, I'm not. Leaving? She didn't respond. She just walked away, faster this time, disappearing deeper into the woods. That night, Zuri sat on her small woven mat inside her grandmother's hut. Her grandmother, Mama Nia, had been her only family since the accident. She stirred a pot of porridge and hummed an old lullaby. Zuri stared at the glowing fire, her fingers clutching the mask on her lap. Mama, she said suddenly, voice shaking. Am I ugly? Mama Nia looked up sharply, her wise old eyes narrowing. Who told you that? No one. I just feel it. Mama Nia walked over and knelt beside her. She cupped Zuri's chin in her hands and looked into her eyes. You are not ugly, my child. You are brave. The fire may have touched your skin, but it could never burn your spirit. Zuri's lips trembled. Then why do they stare? Why do they laugh? Because they are blind to truth, Mama Nia said gently, and fear what they do not understand. She reached for the mask. You may wear this if it gives you strength, but don't let it become a wall between you and the world. Zuri nodded silently. At school the next day, things were different. Not because Zuri had changed, but because Jabari had. He no longer sat quietly. He spoke for her when others mocked. He told stories that reminded everyone of people who wore masks for strength, not shame. And slowly, the laughter faded, but not the whispers. One day, Teacher Wema assigned a class project, Tell Your Story. Each child was to present something about themselves through drawing, music, or words. When it was Zuri's turn, the class fell silent. She stood. Mask still on. She walked to the front of the class and pulled out a rolled-up painting. She unrolled it. It was a self-portrait, half of her face covered in her beautiful, colorful mask, and the other half bare, raw, scarred, and crying. Gasps echoed through the room. Zuri said just one sentence, "Both sides are me," and she walked back to her seat. No one laughed. No one whispered. Not that day. But not everyone was ready to understand. Because sometimes, before things get better, they get worse, and the storm was coming. It began with wind. Not the playful kind that dances with leaves, but the kind that howls through cracks and slams doors shut. A storm was rising over Kigegi Moyawan, the village hadn't seen in years. Dark clouds bruised the sky as thunder rolled in the distance. Chickens scattered, mango trees bent, and mothers called their children indoors. At the schoolhouse, Teacher Wema looked out the window and frowned. We must finish early, she announced. The rains will be strong. Everyone goes straight home, no stopping. The children packed their things, buzzing with excitement and fear. The storm was both danger and drama. Zuri, as always, moved quietly. Her mask today was painted with waves and stars, as if it had tried to mirror the stormy sky. She tucked her books beneath her shawl and stepped outside. Jabari appeared beside her. I'll walk with you, he said. Zuri hesitated, then nodded. Her trust in him had deepened, but so had her fears. She had never shown her face in public, not since the fire. Not since the mask. As they walked, the rain began in gentle taps. Like a whisper by the time they reached the halfway point, the old bridge. Near the river, the sky opened. Sheets of rain pelted down. Thunder cracked the heavens open. Lightning split a tree in the distance. Zuri and Jabari ran, laughing through their panic. For a moment, it felt like freedom. Until it didn't. As they reached a small hill near the edge of the forest, A powerful gust of wind ripped through the trees. Zuri's mask, her most precious shield, was torn from her face. It flew through the air like a leaf. Landing in a puddle, everything stopped. Time froze. Zuri stood exposed, her face beautiful. Broken, unhidden, was revealed beneath the gray stormlight. Her scars glistened with rain. The cloudy eye reflected a bolt of lightning. Her lip trembled, and the world saw her. Children who had been nearby screamed in surprise. A group of boys pointing shouted, "She's a witch." Another girl gasped and turned away. Jabari ran to her side, placing his jacket around her shoulders. "Don't look at them," he said. "Look at me." But Zuri couldn't move. She was frozen naked in a world that never deserved her pain. Then came the final cut. One of the older boys, Kido, the village troublemaker, stepped forward, laughing. "No wonder you hide," he said. "Cruelly, your face. It's cursed." The words hit harder than the wind. Zuri stared at the mask in the puddle, muddy, broken, drowned. Then she turned and ran, through the storm, through the forest. Through her own breathless fear, she didn't stop until she reached her mother's grave, a small mound of earth beneath the twisted roots of a baobab tree. The place no one visited but her. She collapsed beside it, sobbing louder than she ever had. Her cries were swallowed by the rain, but the pain echoed through the trees. "Why me?" she cried. "Why did you leave me like this? Why did you give me this face?" Lightning answered with silence. But then, a voice, soft, ancient, familiar. It came not from above, but within. Not cursed, chosen. Zuri's eyes snapped open. A woman stepped from the shadows of the rain, wrapped in robes of bark and beads. Her eyes glowed with wisdom and time. "Mama Thando," Zuri whispered. She had only heard of her in stories. The forest healer, the seer, the woman who lived between the worlds. Mama Thando knelt beside her. "You have seen pain," the old woman said, "but you have not yet seen your purpose." Zuri blinked. "There's no purpose in this," she muttered. "Only shame." Mama Thando shook her head. "Your face is not shame. It is a story." She reached into her satchel and pulled out an old, cracked mask. It was faded, but familiar, decorated with similar colors as Zuri's. "This was mine," she said. Zuri stared. "I too wore a mask," Mama Thando continued. "Until I learned that hiding your scars only gives power to those who fear them." She looked deep into Zuri's soul. "You must choose now, wear your truth with pride, or let others write your story for you." Zuri's breath caught. For the first time in years, someone saw her, truly saw her, not as broken, but as brave. The storm began to slow. The rain softened to a drizzle, and within that soft hush, Zuri whispered, "I don't want to hide anymore." The next morning, the sun returned to Kijiji Moyo like a song after silence. The village school reopened. Children gathered early, buzzing about the storm, trading stories of what they saw. And then they saw her, Zuri, walking tall, without her mask, her head held high. The children gasped. Even the teachers stood stunned. Jabari stepped beside her, smiling proudly. Teacher Wema walked forward. "Zuri," she said, softly. "Are you sure?" Zuri nodded. "I'm tired of hiding." There was silence, and then something unexpected. A little girl in the front row walked forward. She looked up at Zuri with wide eyes and said, "Your face, strong, strano," and just like that, something shifted. A whisper turned to wonder. Fear turned to respect. Zuri walked into the classroom, unmasked, and finally free. But the story wasn't over yet, because healing isn't a moment, it's a journey. And Zuri was just beginning hers. The weeks that followed Zuri's unmasking were quiet, but not the kind of quiet filled with fear or judgment. It was the quiet of reflection, of eyes learning how to see differently. In the past, her silence had felt heavy. Now, her presence carried power. Still, not everyone welcomed the change. Some whispered behind her back. A few still stared too long. Kido, the boy who mocked her most, now avoided her gaze entirely. Perhaps guilt had taken root, or perhaps shame. But Zuri was no longer moved by whispers. The storm within her had already passed. She still carried her old masks in a satchel, not to wear, but as reminders. Each one held a version of herself she had grown through, survived through. One day, after school, Jabari found her behind the old shed near the river. She was painting again, seated on a flat stone, a blank wooden mask in her lap. "You're making another?" he asked, crouching beside her. Zuri smiled gently. "This one isn't for hiding," she said. "It's for telling." She held up the mask. It wasn't like the others. It wasn't meant to cover pain. This one was bold. Red strokes across the brow, gold flames across the chin, a jagged line down the center. "A scar," she said, pointing to the line, "but one that glows." Jabari looked at it, his voice soft. "It's beautiful." Zuri dipped her brush into a pot of indigo and whispered, "So are scars, if you look closely." That weekend, Zuri and Mama Nia walked to the edge of the forest to visit Mama Thando. Word had spread that the old seer had chosen Zuri as her student. "Not everyone is called to heal," Mama Thando told her, "but some are chosen because they've walked through fire." In her forest hut, Mama Thando showed her how to crush leaves into dye, how to speak with the spirit of water, how to carve wood with prayers. But more than anything, she taught her how to listen. "People don't always speak with words," she said. "They speak with silence, with trembling hands, with masks of their own." Zuri began to see the world differently. She noticed things. The boy who always wore long sleeves, even in heat. The girl who never met anyone's eyes. The teacher who paused too long before smiling. Everyone was hiding something, and slowly, Zuri became a mirror for them. Back at school, Zuri asked teacher Wema for permission to start an art group. She called it the Circle of Faces. Every Friday, under the shade of the baobab tree, children gathered. Not to laugh or gossip, but to create. Zuri taught them how to make masks, not for hiding, but for expression. "This one shows how I feel when I miss my papa," one boy said, holding up a blue mask streaked with black. "This one is angry," a girl explained, "because no one ever listens when I cry." Even the quietest children began to speak through color, through shape, through story. Zuri was no longer just the girl with the mask. She had become something more. One day, as the sun sank low and the art group packed up, a new girl approached. She was thin, shy, wrapped in a faded scarf that covered half her face. Zuri saw her hesitate. The girl didn't speak. She only held out her hand, in it a rough piece of wood. I want to make one too," she whispered. Zuri took the wood gently, nodding. "Then, sit with us. Let's make it together." Later that night, as the village settled under stars and the fires flickered low, Mama Nia sat with Zuri outside their hut. "You've changed," she said. Zuri looked up from her mask bag, surprised. "How?" "You carry your pain like a gift." "Now," Mama Nia said, "and you give pieces of it away, so others can heal too." Zuri said nothing, but smiled. The night wind moved softly through the trees. Somewhere in the distance, a drumbeat began, soft, rhythmic. Like a heartbeat, days turned into months. The masks Zuri helped others make were hung in the school. Soon, adults began coming to her too, seeking healing, guidance. even forgiveness. She wasn't just a girl with scars anymore. She had become a keeper of stories. But one day, something happened that made her question everything. During an annual village festival, Zuri was asked to speak before the elders. To tell her story, she stood before the crowd in the center square, the firelight dancing on her face. The same villagers who once avoided her now leaned in. Eyes wide. "I was once a girl who hid," Zuri began, "because I thought pain made me unworthy." She paused, her voice catching. "But pain doesn't make us less. Sometimes it makes us more." Tears fell. Applause rose. The crowd clapped, and songs were sung in her honor. And yet, behind the crowd, Zuri saw a face she hadn't seen in years. Kito, he stood alone, watching, eyes filled not with cruelty, but regret. He stepped forward. He began. "I was wrong. I was a child. And I was afraid of what I didn't understand." Zuri looked at him. She could have turned away, could have let him feel the sting of his own guilt. Instead, she offered him one of her oldest masks. It was cracked, the paint faded, one side chipped, but it was the first mask she had ever worn. "This," she said, "is where I started. Maybe it's where you can start too." Kito took it with trembling hands, and the healing continued. But even healing has an end, and a beginning waiting just beyond it. Because the next step in Zuri's story was a return to the place where the pain first began, and what she would find there would change her forever. Years passed, seasons turned like pages in a book. And with every sunrise over Kijiji Moyo, Zuri's name grew softer on the tongues of gossipers and heavier in the hearts of those she had touched. She had become more than a village girl. She had become a legend. But even legends return to where they began. One morning, with her satchel of masks slung across her back and a bundle of books in her arms, Zuri stood before the newly built schoolhouse, the same one where she had once sat, silent and masked, hiding behind feathers and paint. Only now, she wasn't a student. She was the teacher. Children ran to greet her, calling her Mwalimu Zuri, Teacher Zuri. Some carried their own homemade masks, their faces lit with pride. In her first class, Zuri stood tall before rows of eager eyes. Her own scars remained softened, but never erased. She wore them like a crown now, not a curse. "I want to tell you a story," she began, her voice calm and strong, "about a girl who wore a mask. Not because she was afraid, but because she was learning how to be brave." The children leaned forward. "And do you know what she discovered?" Zuri asked. They shook their heads. "That the things we hide often hold the seeds of our greatest gifts." One small girl, sitting in the back, raised her hand. Her name was Amani. She wore a scarf across her cheek. Zuri noticed her right away, the same haunted look she once wore. "Yes, Amani," Zuri smiled. Amani lowered her eyes. Can I make a mask too?" Zuri nodded gently. "You can. But only if you promise to one day take it off." The room fell silent. Then, one by one, the children smiled. Because they understood. That night, Zuri walked alone to the tree near the river, the place where her first mask had broken. She sat beneath it and opened her satchel. Inside were all her old masks. One by one, she laid them out before her. The blue one of sorrow, the red one of anger, the green one of healing, and the golden one of hope. Then she did something she had never done before. She lit a small fire, and slowly, lovingly, she placed each mask into the flames. The fire crackled. It didn't feel like loss, it felt like freedom. Zuri returned to the village, ashes on her hands, peace in her heart. She continued teaching, continued healing, continued listening. The girl who once walked through Kijiji Moyo In Silence had become the voice for every child who ever felt unseen. She didn't need a mask anymore, because now, the whole world had learned to see her, and in doing so, they saw themselves. Thank you for watching. She wears a mask to school every day to hide her face until this happened. Zuri's journey reminds us that everyone carries something hidden, something sacred. Sometimes we wear masks to protect ourselves, but healing begins when we choose to take them off. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment with your thoughts or your own story. Subscribe for more powerful African tales that inspire, heal, and transform. Share this video with someone who needs it. Today, until next time, remember, our scars are not shame. They are stories, and stories deserve to be told.